What is going on, Fire Team? Welcome back to Shift Fire, the exploration and appreciation of all things military culture. You guys are tuned in to a segment we like to call Interrogating Cam and Izzy. Without further ado, we have our infamous helmet with your questions taken from previous videos, and we are going to answer them. So, you ready, Izzy?
Let's jump in.
Have either of you ridden in a Osprey? If so, how does it feel when it transitions between its modes of flight?
This is all you, man. The answer for me is no. But Cameron has a very strong opinion about the Osprey.
I hate the Osprey. I think the CB22 is a flying death trap. And yes, I have been in it when it transitions from hover to flight. And if you are not safety lined in, you are gonna roll out of the back. It's fast.
It's a big pull.
Oh
going
my,
back
it's
that
like
way.
boom! And then
okay.
I remember one time we were doing a training exercise. Was it NTC? We did like a 5-day just mission after mission after mission for our MLAT one training cycle. And literally we were doing a mission into a mission. Like we were hitting multiple villages within NTC, and the Osprey was our means of getting around. And I remember we hit one and we're all loading and like everyone's getting settled in and like finding a spot because there wasn't any seats, so it was literally just getting there, take a knee, and I'm going to safety line in, and I just clipped in time, and literally it transitioned from hover to go, and it was like I fell backwards, and the only thing keeping me from rolling out of the back was my safety line.
Oh my gosh.
It's literally like a roller coaster that just stops. You ever been on Aerosmith at Disney World?
Oh, the ride.
The ride.
Yes.
You know how it's from, it just stops and goes, boosh!
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it is literally like that, but then they also have a lot of problems, and they're known for crashing, so I'm not a big fan of the Osprey.
Have you ever had a battalion member / squad member get in trouble for violating any local overseas custom? I didn't get in trouble for this one, but I remember when we were meeting some of the locals in Iraq. We went up to the northern part. We were meeting some of the local officers, and they were going down the line introducing us by our first names. So, you know, Tim and Chad and Chuck. And they get to me, and the guy goes, Israel. And the guy goes, ha ha ha. And there's like this look that he gets on his face. So that name doesn't go over very well in certain parts of the Middle East, as you well are very well. He's like, no, that's his name.
You know, obviously I only had one deployment to Syria in a combat zone, but when we were there, we came in possession of numerous ISIS flags. The place we were at was, you know, a hub for working with the Syrian Democratic Forces, or the SDF. We got a lot of ISIS flags, and like we would take pictures with them, obviously, and in one picture, we're like stepping on the flag. And like we thought it was super cool, obviously, because ISIS, right? Daesh. Even though ISIS was the enemy, on the flag in writing says Allah. So the locals got pissed at us because they were like, you're disrespecting our God. But nothing ever to like, you know, get us kicked out of a place or whatnot. But yeah, you always have to respect the place you're at.
Local customs.
Are there any habits you formed during your service that you still do as a civilian? For example, making your bed, working out, etc.
I was gonna say, making my bed and working out.
Yeah, those are great ones. I don't make my bed. That. You make your bed so after a hard day you come back to a made bed.
Actually, yeah, that was probably more because of the Admiral McRaven graduation speech.
Yeah,
than
that's
anything
what I was
else.
quoting, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. What the military gave me was an appreciation for discipline and scheduling and segmenting your time. Backwards planning was another thing.
Yeah.
You know, you have to do in the military. When you have a hard time, you have to be on the objective at a certain time. You plan back from there based on how long each section is gonna take in your preparation and your travel and stuff like that. And then you say, well, if we have to do this takes this much time, this takes this much time, I have to go all the way back, and this is when we have to start moving.
Yeah,
you know?
It's not like, I think it's gonna be about this much. It's like very methodical, it's very well thought out. And then you also give you more time than you think. You plan for, you know, the unexpected. So you always allot yourself more time. But yeah, that's a good one, planning. And then punctuality is huge. I like to be on time most of the time. And sometimes it happens and I beat myself up over it. Even though like everybody's late, that I've come to find out in the civilian world to everything. So punctuality is a big thing.
Politeness.
I'm calling everyone more yes and ma'am.
Sir and ma'am.
Sir and ma'am.
Yep, sir and ma'am. We're definitely a lot more polite. It's just more of a habit nowadays.
For example, the other day I was at the post office, and like the lady behind the desk, if that's what you want to call her, I was like saying yes ma'am and no ma'am, and she's like, what are you, in the military or something? And I'm like, yes, of course, it's Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes I am. And she was like, oh.
Take my mail. What is the coolest mission you ever took part in? There's the fantasy of doing like a mission in the military, and then there's the reality of doing it. The reality is you're very focused on what you're doing. You're planning a lot of stuff out. You're thinking about what you're doing. You're very focused. You're not in the moment having fun. It's just afterwards.
You're doing your job.
You're doing your job. And then afterwards, maybe you think like, oh, it was pretty cool. But there was a moment when we were on our way to someplace in Iraq. We had our mission objective. We knew what we were gonna do. And it was like Zero Dark 30 style, where you're flying in the Black Hawk, your legs are dangling over the side, you're hooked in. And then you come to kind of the outskirts of the village. You come down, the dust is cooked up by the Black Hawk, and you unhook and you rush out and you like form a perimeter and take off. And then it's like dark and quiet and you do your seals and stuff. And then you start moving in. There was a moment in the midst of all that when I kind of saw myself from the outside. I'm like,
this is cool.
This is pretty cool.
It's like, it doesn't matter. It's all cool.
Yeah.
Like, even like there was one time that, and this wasn't even like a cool mission, but I thought it was still super cool. It was literally like we needed to get building supplies from around the city. It was so cool because we had these Land Rovers, these civilian Land Rovers, which honestly my dream is to get one of these because it was like a 1970 all-wheel drive. It was either Land Cruiser or Land Rover, and it was a manual, and it had crazy dice in the window.
Fuzzy dice.
Yeah, and it was all straight pipe. It was the most fun car to drive, and I got to drive it under nods and blackout just to go into this city, and like we were all geared up, and I was just like, or even like driving through Syria, coming to the new base where you're just everybody's in a real tight vehicle formation, and like there's camels, you're like passing camels and stuff. Yeah, it was just everything about it is cool. Have you ever thought about going to Ukraine to fight when the invasion first started? Izzy, I'll let you take this one.
Yes, I did. I had a long and serious conversation with myself about whether or not I would go over to fight in Ukraine. I was leaning towards it, man. I was having conversations with people. I was asking for people's advice. I was thinking about the logistics of it. Ultimately, I couldn't settle on an answer, and that became my answer. It's like, if I'm not settled on it, this is like a big commitment. Obviously, I'm putting my life on the line, but I felt very strongly about it, just not enough to really get settled like in my heart. And so I said, no, I'm not going to do it.
But what did you do? You did something, didn't you?
Oh, I did. I did a little bit of volunteering. I went over to Poland for a couple of weeks. I helped out with some of the refugees with an organization called Safe Harbor Ukraine.
I didn't really have an interest in doing it, to be honest. I mean, it was a tragic event that happened, like obviously, but I've never been the type to like emotionally respond to things just because I want to see how it plays out first. Ukraine's kicking. So I didn't feel it necessary. Like, my role as a provider and as a protector is at home. There would be no reason for me to go forward and put myself out there again, especially not from a nationalistic point of view, because I'm not serving the U.S.
Yeah.
I'm going forth and serving a foreign country that I literally have no experience with or involvement with.
Did either of you have any experience with IEDs?
Luckily, no.
No, did not.
No. In Syria, there wasn't a lot of IEDs being used. The biggest threat we had was drones being rigged with explosive ordnance, and they would fly it over a location and drop like grenades from a remote location. But that was like the biggest threat we had, besides like vehicle-borne IEDs, which are pretty substantial bad. But it was nothing compared to like Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah,
initially.
Iraq, by the time I got there in 2008, that was definitely a weapon of choice, because it was very much like a cat and mouse kind of thing going on. My involvement was mostly like going out and looking for, kind of going into the homes of like, whether he was the bomb maker or the logistics guy or the officer or whatever of the insurgency. But thankfully, I did not have any experience with that. You would hear about stuff, and there would be units that would go and do what's called route clearance, where they would go out and they'd have these kind of radar sticks on the end of their vehicles, and they would go out and try to clear a route before like maybe a big convoy would go through. We actually went out kind of on our own oftentimes. Our stuff was unannounced, and we didn't have any regular patterns of movement.
What a combat situation feels like to the senses. Is there a specific taste or smells, for instance, that comes to mind when thinking of combat? I will tell you that I will never think of steak the same again, because literally burnt smells just like a steak. I mean, it was like someone put pile of hair on a steak. That's what it smelled like.
The most intense situation that I was ever in, which was the ambush situation that I've talked about before, I remember my senses going very like, everything emotionally like kind of drained away, and I was very kind of in this kind of very settled emotional state, It was very kind of like, almost like numb a little bit, but very aware of my surroundings, and just kind of like doing what I had to do and listening to what was going on and stuff, and just reacting very kind of robotically. And then afterward, you kind of think about it a little bit more. But no, in the moment, not very like overly emotional.
I think, you know, at least from regiment, they did an excellent job of preparing you for it.
Yeah, I think so
and
too.
like, because I mean, when you're a private, like I started to realize the importance of like, why do they give us impossible time hacks and why do they smoke the shit out of us if we don't? Because it like teaches you to work well under pressure.
Yep.
Especially when you're like trying to put a, you know, I remember when I first got there, just setting up my equipment, I had a tab come over and he's like, you have 15 seconds to put all 3 pouches on it. And in my mind, I'm like, that's literally impossible. But I'm like working here knowing I'm about to get smoked. I would get smoked a little bit and then be like, okay, now another 15 seconds, go. But then I started to learn. I was like, okay, like I know it's coming. Why don't I just calm down? Instead of freaking out about the punishment, just try to get it done as fast as possible.
Yep. Do you have any contact with a PMC over your tour? If yes, how do you or the soldiers engage with them? Is the mercenary allowed to stay in the U.S. outpost or base? Are they allowed to share something with them? Private military contractors, PMCs.
Yeah, private military contractors. They're on contracts working overseas. Typically security or like an embassy detail or protecting a high value, you know, politician or something. I never had any experience working with them. I have a lot of buddies that are in contracting and like, yes, they have their own bases that they stay on. Sometimes they stay at the embassy and whatnot, but it really depends on the contract and who they work for.
I mean, there would be civilian contractors on the base, like, you know, hairdressers and local
chefs.
You know, chefs and things like that. People working in the commissary, the DFAC and things like that. They would be from places like Turkey or some other places that we had friendly relationships with in the Middle East. But private military contractors, you're talking about like the legit paramilitary dudes. No, I didn't have a lot of contact with them.
Yeah. As a new military wife about to face my husband's first deployment, just divorce each other.
No,
I'd like to
no.
know, just kidding. I'd love to know what was the hardest thing for your married battle buddies when deployed. What did they/you do to help? Depends what your love language is, man. Like some people really cherish quality time. If you're in the mindset that you're a military wife, it's literally up to you. Because your husband, or if you're a military husband and your wife is overseas, obviously they're gonna be really busy. And then there's gonna be a time difference. So you have to prepare for that and you have to be in the mindset that, hey, you probably have to handle your own shit. Any stress that you put on your partner for like petty is going to make their life a hell of a lot harder. I think the best example is Michael Pena's wife in 12 Strong.
Oh, Lauren Chavez Myers.
Yes.
What a great actress she is.
Yeah, Izzy was in a movie with her called Missing You. Go watch it. Here's a great example. He like comes in the kitchen in that movie and he's like, aren't you sad I'm leaving? She's like, I know what I signed up for. But yeah, the only thing is like find a support system, get a hobby, stay away from the crazy military wives.
Take care of your kids.
Yeah, literally get a hobby, stay busy.
However you communicate, have that nailed down before he deploys.
Yeah.
You know, if you need a rhythm, if he can provide a rhythm of communication, because it's a lot easier probably nowadays than it was back then.
Oh yeah, with all the technology now.
You have to do the prep work before he deploys.
Yeah.
To lay the groundwork of trust, patience in the relationship. Then when he's gone, that foundation is already established. You know what I mean?
You got to hold down the fort.
If you could have any firearm in history while in the military, what primary and secondary firearm would you choose? You know, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I gotta go my M4. I'm telling you, man, it's like bread and butter. It's like Captain America and his shield. It's not just a piece of equipment. It's a part of me, you know? It's an extension of who I am. Wow. Actually, Captain America's shield, that would be pretty cool. Yeah. You know, I'm assuming that I'm Captain America in this scenario. Yeah, and that I have the super soldier serum in my veins.
Where else would you get it?
Absolutely. Definitely not the Beretta that I had. I would have to go with something maybe a little bit lighter. You know, I've shot Glocks more recently and things like that, which I thought were really cool. Something with like a nice little, maybe a little sight and then like a laser or a light underneath.
We're so advanced now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna carry a spear.
Yeah, it'd be like, you would be stupid to do anything that's like from like World War II, even though I would love to have a BAR. So if someone wants to donate a Browning automatic rifle to me, I would really appreciate it. I would definitely just keep my M4, but the Block 2, so like the Mark 18 kind of thing, but at a 14.5-inch upper. One gun that, you know, we actually ended up shooting with Travis Haley when we did the Gameology, the experts try, the M16, like I think it was the A3 or the A4 that we shot. You know, I thought it was a joke. It went before because I was like, M16, 16-inch barrel.
Yeah.
That's for the pores. And then I shot it. Man, that thing can run. And then I thought about it like, okay, dudes in Fallujah were like clearing building to building with these full-size M16s.
Yeah.
And it was a fun gun to shoot. I'll be honest, with the ACOG, it was like a killer combo. It like barely kicked. I was hitting standing targets at like 200 meters, just like clink, 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 clink. Like, it was a great gun. But yeah, I'd probably just have my 14.5-inch Dano Defense M4. I mean, with a Glock 19 like I had in Regiment. We hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, share it with your friends, and as always, Fireteam, we will catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Did I say dizzy?
I heard Izzy.
Okay, all right, then that is that. All right, let's get
physical. Oh, I probably shouldn't say this one.